Why be ordinary when you can be flamboyant? Wancheka Radio. Be flamboyant.
Good evening, and here are the major stories for today. President Muhammadu Buhari today charged members of the Economic Community of West African States to maximize its efforts and commitment for economic transformation. Buhari, who disclosed this at the opening ceremony of the high-level dialogue between Chinese and African leaders and business representatives in Beijing, China, urged members not to be over-dependent on China's help and to use every resources to make their economy viable and buoyant. Buhari told the summit that the ECOWAS member states will continue to pay emphasis on encouraging more foreign direct investment in the sub-region, especially opportunities that the China International Import-Export Initiative will offer exporters to gain market access for their goods and services in China. The Plateau State Police Command has confirmed that 11 persons were killed on Saturday night in Latia and Lakwandent communities close to Goratop in Rayfield, Jos South local government area of Plateau State by yet-to-be-identified gunmen. Spokesman of the command, Matthias Teopev, told reporters this Monday that the police command received a distress call on Saturday night at about 8:30 p.m. that unknown gunmen attacked Lopandent Dwedu area of Jos South local government area and immediately mobilized to the scene of the crime. On arrival, they discovered that some people were shot and victims were immediately rushed to the Jos University Teaching Hospital and Plateau Specialist Hospital. 11 persons have been confirmed dead by doctors from the hospital, while 12 others were wounded and are now on admission receiving treatment. The police public relations officer called for calm as more security personnel have been deployed to the area to prevent further attacks. He added that investigation into the crime is ongoing. The abductors of the parish priest of Emmanuel Catholic Church, Aragba, Ovri Okpa local government area of Delta State have demanded a ransom of 15 million naira for his release. The priest, Reverend Father Christopher Ogaga, who is also the principal of St. Peter's Clavers College, Hagalope, was reportedly abducted around Aravo Viri Orere Okpa Road last Saturday on his way to Eforo while trying to meet up for Mass the next day at the Mother of Redeemer Catholic Church. Although the State Police Public Relations Officer Andrew Aniamaka could not be reached for details, a source at the Sapele Area Command who spoke on condition of anonymity confirmed the incident as well as the latest development. In a similar story, abductors of the Akoko-Edo local government area chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Henry Ashrafo, are demanding 20 million naira ransom for his release. Correspondents gathered that the victim's wife was contacted on Sunday evening by the abductors, who insisted they would not backtrack on their demand. Ashrafo was kidnapped on Sunday evening near Ayetoro along the Igara-Ibelo Road while on his way home from Igara, where he had attended a burial ceremony with other politicians. And Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami today inaugurated a 17-man monitoring and evaluation committee on the implementation of the National Anti-Corruption Strategy from 2017 to 2021. Malami said the mandate of the committee, whose members are drawn from different sectors, is to ensure that the National Anti-Corruption Strategy is delivered to Nigerians. According to him, the strategy comprises 5 pillars, including prevention, public engagement, ethical reorientation, enforcement and sanction, as well as recovery and management of proceeds of crime. He noted that the strategy's action plan and the monitoring and evaluation working tools are documents which serve as the guideline for the new committee. In international news, international condemnation has trailed the 7-year sentencing of 2 Reuters news agency journalists by a Myanmar court for illegal possession of official documents, a ruling that comes this Monday as international criticism mounts over the military's alleged human rights abuses against Rohingya Muslims. Wallon and Choso Ho were found guilty of breaching state security law during their reporting on a massacre of Rohingya minorities, but had pleaded not guilty to violating the Colonial-era Official Secrets Act, punishable by up to 14 years in prison, and insisted that they were framed by Myanmar police. Many nations, including the US, the UK, Denmark and Bangladesh, as well as human rights group, have called for the reporters' immediate release. Phil Robertson, Deputy Director of Human Rights Watch Asia Division, has called the verdict a hammer blow against media freedom, a guilty verdict against the 2 reporters in order to intimidate other journalists to avoid reporting on human rights violation by the army. The verdict comes amid mounting pressure on the government of Aung San Suu Kyi over a security crackdown sparked by attacks by Rohingya Muslim insurgents on security forces in August of 2017. It also comes a week after the release of an explosive United Nations-led study into abuses in Rakhine State, accusing Myanmar's army chief of heading a campaign of genocide and crimes against humanity. Reuters president and editor-in-chief Stephen Adler has released a statement saying the press won't be intimidated.
A sad day for Myanmar, Reuters journalists Walon and Chaw Soo-woo, and the press everywhere. These two admirable reporters have already spent more than 8 months in prison on false charges designed to silence their reporting and intimidate the press. Without any evidence of wrongdoing, and in the face of compelling evidence of a police setup, today's ruling condemns them to the continued loss of their freedom and condones the misconduct of security forces. This is a major step backward in Myanmar's transition to democracy, cannot be squared with the rule of law or freedom of speech, and must be corrected by the Myanmar government as a matter of urgency. We will not wait while Walon and Chaw Soo-woo suffer this injustice, and will evaluate how to proceed in the coming days, including whether to seek relief in an international forum.
Argentina's president, Mauricio Macri, has announced austerity measures in a bid to tackle the emergency created by the country's currency crisis. In a televised address, Macri said taxes on export of some grains and other products would rise, and about half of the nation's government ministries would be abolished. He did not say when the taxes would be altered or give further details. In addition, that country's finance minister, Nicolas Dujovny, has announced measures to cut the country's budget deficit next year in a bid to stop the slide in the peso. The peso has lost about half its value this year against the US dollar, despite the central bank raising interest rates to 60%. And officials in Brazil have blamed lack of funding for a huge fire that has ravaged the country's National Museum. One of the largest anthropology and natural history collections in the Americas was almost totally destroyed in Sunday's fire in Rio de Janeiro. The museum's deputy director said after the fire that there had been complaints about the dilapidated state of the museum and they never had adequate support. The fire started on Sunday evening after the building, a 19th century former royal palace, closed for the day, and the cause is still unknown. No injuries have been reported, but most of the 20 million items that the museum contained, including the oldest human remains ever found in the Americas, were destroyed. In business, an extra $60 billion has been pledged by the Chinese President Xi Jinping for Africa's development as he opened the summit with African leaders in Beijing to boost relations. Addressing leaders at the summit, President Jinping allayed rumors that China invests in vanity projects in Africa and insisted that his country is helping the continent build its infrastructure, being the single largest bilateral financier of infrastructure on the continent. He said the $60 billion, which would be made up of both aid and loans, would be spent on 8 initiatives over the next 3 years, including building more infrastructure and giving scholarship to young Africans. Meanwhile, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has welcomed China's growing involvement on the continent, saying he does not agree that a new colonialism is taking hold in Africa, contrary to the beliefs of critics. In entertainment, U2 frontman Bono says he expects to be back to full voice for the rest of the band tour a day after a Berlin show was cancelled over a vocal issue. The singer said in a statement released today that he has seen a great doctor and that he was happy and relieved that anything serious had been ruled out. U2 fans were left disappointed when the Berlin show was cut short on Saturday. The Irish band had played several songs before Bono apologized to the crowd for the pause. The band hopes to be back in the city on November 13, according to the statement. In sport, Cristiano Ronaldo, Luka Modric and Mohamed Salah are the finalists for this year's Best FIFA Men's Player Award, as Barcelona and Argentina forward Lionel Messi misses out on a place in the top 3. Lyon's Champions League winning duo Ada Hegerberg of Norway and Germany's Zenifa Marizans are the finalists for the Best FIFA Women's Player, alongside Brazil forward Marta. Although no French player from this year's World Cup winning team made the top 3 list, Coach Didier Deschamps is nominated for Coach of the Year, alongside Croatia's Zlatko Dalic and former Real Madrid boss Zinedine Zidane. The winners will be announced on September 24 at Royal Festival Hall in London. Head of the Palestinian Football Association, Jibril Rajoub, has said he will appeal against his year-long FIFA ban for inciting fans against Argentinian footballer Lionel Messi. Rajoub said today that he was prepared to fight the decision by football's world governing body all the way to the criminal court in The Hague if he has to. FIFA banned Rajoub from attending matches for a year over his involvement in a campaign to prevent Argentina from playing Israel in a friendly international ahead of the World Cup in June. According to FIFA, Rajoub incited hatred and violence by calling on football fans to target the Argentinian Football Association and burn jerseys and pictures of Lionel Messi. And in tennis, that's it. Juan Martín del Potro has defeated Croatia's Borna Coric 6-4, 6-4, 6-1 at the US Open to set up a quarter-final clash with American John Isner. The Argentine played 9 aces and 33 winners to seal a one-sided victory over the 20th seed in just over 2 hours, with Coric making 30 unforced errors to undermine his own cause. Next up for Del Potro is 11th seed Isner, who won his second 5-setter of the tournament to see off Canada's Milos Raonic earlier in the day. And those are the major stories for today. I am Binta, Bhadmus.
Why be ordinary when you can be flamboyant? One Shaka Radio. Be flamboyant.